The term political science is intimately related to the word politics, which itself is derived from the Greek word polis. That means a city state, the general form of political organization in ancient Greece. Politics is derived from polis, polis, which is a Greek word. Uh, Polis means city state, the general form of political organization in ancient Greece. The sophist, particularly Protagoras and Gorgias in Athens, were the first to expound political theories. Sophists were the first to expound a political theory. Later on, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle continued to conduct the scientific study of various problems concerning the state and the government. Aristotle, the world famous Greek philosopher, however, excelled his teacher Plato. Aristotle, the world famous Greek philosopher, however, excelled his teacher Plato and his teacher's teacher Socrates. Now, Aristotle is regarded as the father of science of politics in the West, while Manu is considered to be the first political thinker of India. His famous book Manusmriti is regarded as the first book of law in India. Later on, Kautilya or Chanakya, both were the same person who formed and formulated thinking and gave it a concrete form in the shape of a book named Arthashastra, a well-known book of Indian polity. In the famous book of Politics, Aristotle has started. Aristotle's book is Politics, where he asserted man is by nature a political animal. Man is by nature a political animal, and he who by nature and not by mere accident is without state is either above humanity or below it. So, man is by nature a political animal. Man is by nature a political animal, and he who by nature and not by mere accident is without state is either above humanity or below it. Republic of India. India, a union of states, is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. The republic is governed in terms of the constitution, which was adopted by Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949, and came into force on November 26, 1950. India is a union of states. It is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. The republic is governed in terms of the constitution, which was adopted by Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949, and came into force on January 26, 1950. The constitution, which envisages parliamentary form of government, is federal in structure with unitary features. Constitution envisages parliamentary form of government is federal in structure with unitary features. The President of India is the constitutional head of executive of the Union. Article 74 of 1 of the Constitution provides that there shall be a council of ministers. Article 74 1 of the Constitution provides that there shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister as its head to aid and advise the President, who shall in exercise of his function act in accordance with such advice. The real executive power thus vests in the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister as its head. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the House of People. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the House of People. The Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the House of People, called Lok Sabha. Similarly, in states, the government is the head of executive, but it is the Council of Ministers with the Chief Minister as its head, in whom real executive power vests. The Council of Ministers of a state is collectively responsible to the Legislative Assembly of the state. The Constitution distributes legislative power between Parliament and state legislature and provides for vesting residual powers in Parliament. The power to amend the Constitution also vests in Parliament. The Constitution distributes legislative power between Parliament and state legislature and provides for vesting of residual power in Parliament. The power to amend the Constitution also vests in Parliament. The constitution has provision for independence of judiciary, CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General, Public Service Commission, Chief Election Commission. Government of India's description. Country name Republic of India or Bharatiya Ganrajya. Bharat Ganrajya. Government type sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. Capital New Delhi. Administrative division 28 states and 9 union territories. Independence 15th August 1947. Constitution adopted on 26 January 1950. Came into effect on 26 January 1950. Adopted on 26 November 1949. Legal system. Constitution of India is the fountain source of legal system in the country. The President of India is the head of the state, while the Prime Minister of India Prime Minister is the head of the government and runs office with the support of Council of Ministers who form the Cabinet Ministry. Legislative branch. The Indian legislature comprises of the Lok Sabha, House of the People, and Rajya Sabha, Council of States, forming both the houses of parliament. Judicial branch. Supreme Court is the apex body, followed by other high courts and subordinate courts. Flag description. Deep saffron on top, white in the middle, and dark green at the bottom of the in equal proportion. At the center, a white band of navy blue wheel, which is representation of Ashok Chakra at Sarnath. Constitution. Constitution of the foundational law of a country, which ordains the fundamental principles on which the government of that country is based. It lays down the framework and principal functions of various organs of the governments, as well as the modalities of interaction between the government and its citizens. With the exception of United Kingdom, almost all democratic countries possess a written constitution. India also possesses an elaborated written constitution, which was enacted by the Constitution Assembly, specifically set up for this person. So every democracy has a written constitution. India also has written constitution. UK, although being democratic, it does not have any written constitution. Constitution is the foundational law of a country. Our constitution, our present constitution, the first constitution of India, framed and given to the themselves by people of India, was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 26 November 1949. It came into the full operation with effect from 26 January 1950. The Constitution, as originally adopted, had 22 parts, 395 articles, and 8 schedules. Its present text is as amended from time to time. When the constitution was adopted, it had 22 parts, 395 articles, and 8 schedules. Evolution of Indian constitution. Although the system of ancient India do have their reflection in the constitution of India, the direct source of the constitution lie in the administrative and legislative developments of the British period. A concise and chronological description of the acts documented and events cumulated in framing of the world's largest written constitution is given here. That means Indian constitution's direct source was the administrative and legislative power of the British government, and from there many laws were taken. First of all, regulating of Act of 1773. Regulating Act of 1773. This act was based on the report of British Prime Minister Lord North. Government of East India Company. Governance of East India Company was put under the British parliamentary control. The Governor of Bengal was nominated as Governor General of all three presidencies of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. Governor of Bengal was nominated as Governor General of all three presidencies, Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. Warren Hastings was first such Governor General. Warren Hastings was first Governor General. A Supreme Court was established in Calcutta. A Supreme Court was established in Calcutta in 1773. Pitt's India Act of 1784. It was enacted to improve upon the provision of Regulating Act of 1773. 1773's Regulating Act for improving Regulating Act of 1773 and to bring better discipline in the company's system of administration. Pitt's India Act of 1784 was came into effect. A six-member board of controllers was set up. A six-member board of controllers was set up, which was headed by a minister of British government. All political responsibilities were given to this board. All political responsibilities were given to this board. Trade and commerce related issues were under the purview of the court of directors of the company. Trade and commerce related issues were under the purview of court of directors, six-member board of controllers, and another court of directors. Court of directors was responsible for trade and commerce related issues, while board of controllers were responsible for political responsibilities. Provinces had to follow the instruction of central government, and Governor General was empowered to dismiss the failing provisional government. Then comes Charter Act of 1793. Main provisions of the previous acts were consolidated in this act. Charter Act of 1793 consolidated the main provisions of Pitt's India Act 1784, provided for the payment of salaries of the members of the Board of Controllers from Indian Revenue. And so now from Indian Revenue, the salary of board, salary of Board of Controllers and Court of Directors members will be given. Courts are given the power to interpret rules and regulation. Courts are given power to interpret rules and regulation. Charter Act of 1813. Trade monopoly of the East India Company came to an end. Trade monopoly of East India Company came to an end. Powers of the three councils of Madras, Bombay and Calcutta were enlarged. They were also subjected to greater control of the British Parliament. They were also subjected to greater control of the British Parliament. The Christian missionaries were allowed to spread their religion in India. Christian missionaries are now allowed to spread their religion in India. Trade monopoly of East India Company was ended. Power of three councils were subjected to greater control of British Parliament, and that means British Parliament will have greater power in Madras, Bombay and Calcutta presidency. Local autonomous bodies were empowered to levy taxes. Local autonomous bodies were empowered to levy taxes. Charter Act of 1833. The Governor General and his council were given vast powers. The council could legislate for the whole of India subject to the approval of the Board of Controllers. The council got full powers regarding the revenue. The council of Governor General and his council are given vast power. The council could legislate the whole of India. Governor General's council can now legislate whole of India subject to approval of Board of Controllers. Board of Controllers were set up in Pitt's India Act 1784. Pitt's Indian Act 1784. And the council got full powers regarding revenue, and a single budget for the country was prepared by the Governor General. Single budget for the country was prepared by the Governor General. The East India Company was reduced to an administrative and political entity. East India Company's monopoly was already completed ended in Charter Act of 1813, and now in 1833's Charter Act, the company's power was reduced to administrative and political entity, and several lords and ministers were nominated as ex officio members of the Board of Controllers. The Board of Controllers, which was came into effect with Pitt's India Act of 1784, has power. East India Company has uh, power over the Board of Controllers. But now, but after Charter Act of 1833, Governor Generals, several lords and ministers from Britain were nominated as ex officio members of Board of Controllers. For the first time, Governor General's government was known as Government of India, and his council as the Indian Council. Charter Act of 1853. This was the last of Charter Acts, and it made important changes in the system of Indian legislation. This act followed a report of the then Governor General Dalhousie for improving the administration of the company. A separate governor for Bengal was to be appointed. A separate governor of Bengal to be appointed. Governor of Bengal actually was the governor general of all three presidencies before that, but now governor of Bengal is only governor of Bengal. Legislative and administrative function of the council were separately identified. Council, Governor General's Council, Governor General's Council have now two parts: legislative and administrative function. Legislative function and administrative function. Recruitment of the company's employee was to be done through competitive exam. Recruitment of the company's employee was to be done through competitive exam. British Parliament was empowered to put company's governance of India to end and suitable at any suitable time. Now, administrative and legislative reforms after 1857. 1857's Government of India Act, Government of India Act 1858. British Crown decided to assume sovereignty over India from the East Indian Company in an apparent consequence of the revolt of 1857. As the consequence of revolt of 1857, Sepoy mutiny, the British Crown, the Queen of Britain, takes the power of East India Company and get it done by themselves. So British Crown is the governing body of India now, and East India Company was abolished. The first statute of the governance of India under the direct rule of British government was the Government of India Act 1858. So 1858's Government of India Act was the first statute of governance of India under the direct rule of British government. It provided for absolute British imperial control over India without any popular participation in the administration of the country. The powers of the crown were to be exercised by the Secretary of State for India, assisted by a council of 15 members known as Council of India. Council of India was now Government of India Act came with a new term, Council of India, complying 15 members, which will help the Secretary of State for India, The country was divided into provinces headed by a governor or lieutenant governor aided by his executive council. India was divided in several provinces with a governor or lieutenant governor as its heads. provisional governments had to function under the superintendent's directions and control of the governor general in all matters. The post of governor general is still there, and the provisional governments in the to be control had to function under the government general in all matters. All the authority of the governance of India was vested into the Governor General in Council, who was responsible for the Secretary of State. Secretary of State was assisted by a 15-member council whose head was Governor General of India. So it is Governor General in Council. Governor General in Council is responsible for the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State was ultimately responsible to the British Parliament. Secretary of State is also responsible to someone, that is British Parliament. Now came Indian Council Act 1861. That was an important landmark in the constitutional history of India. By the act, the powers of the crown were to be exercised by the Secretary of State for India, assisted by a council of 15 members, or Council of India, as we read in Government of India Act 1858. The Secretary of State, who was responsible to the British Parliament, governed India through the Governor General, assisted by an executive council. This act enabled the Governor General to associate representatives of the Indian people with the work of legislation by nominating them into his expanded council. So after India Council Act 1861, the Indian peoples were allowed to allowed to take part in the Governor General in Council. The act provided that the Governor General's executive council should include certain additional non-official members also while transacting legislative business as a legislative council, but this legislative council was neither a representative nor deliberative in any sense. Decentralized the legislation power of the Governor General's Council and vested them in the governments of Bombay and Madras. Indian Council Act 1892. The non-official member of the Indian Council were to be nominated by the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and the Provisional Legislative Council, while non-official